माय मोगाचो येवकार. सगळे आमचे CCR TV पळयणाऱ्यांक a warm welcome. You are watching our episode on health, Tumchi, Bolaiki, Tumche, Hatant. It's your health in your hands, and we have been having these episodes so far now with our professor and head of the department in the Goa Medical College. He was in charge of the pathology department and very well acclaimed not only in Goa, not only in India, but several other countries. Recently, let me share with all our viewers that he has been elected president of South Asian Academy of Cytopathology and Histopathology at Colombo in Sri Lanka during the 50th anniversary international conference of the College of Pathologists at the University of Colombo, UCFM, and that's the Faculty of Medicine in Colombo. This academy is an organization of pathologists from Asian countries that includes India, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Afghanistan, Bhutan, and Maldives. Also Myanmar. He is the first Indian pathologist to occupy this prestigious position. He was earlier the president of the same academy in 2016 and 17. He has now been re-elected, and it's my pleasure, Dr. Wiseman Pinto, to extend a very warm welcome to you.
Thank you.
We have a special guest with us today, and she is the professor and head of the neurology department at the Goa Medical College. She has done her post-graduation in neurology from the Postgraduate Institute IMER, that's Postgraduate Institute of Medical Education and Research in Chandigarh, and that's India's premier postgraduate institute. She is an MD in general medicine from our own college. Earlier, she had to do MBBS also in GMC. Her special interest, and this will be for all our viewers, cognitive disorders, movement disorders, inflammatory disorders of nervous system. We welcome the one and only Dr. Teresa with all of us.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome, Dr. Teresa. Now, a little bit of history. She is the niece of many and most Goans of my age will remember Dr. Adelia Costa. She was the first lady neurologist and psychiatrist in Goa, and the first also in the Portuguese colonies. In Goa, I saw her, I met her, and we used to call her Goa's angel of mental health, and she was the first one to turn the spotlight on mental health in Goa. She was at that time Goa's best known neuropsychiatrist in Goa, and she did her specialist studies in Lisbon. She was born in Lotholim, and she was the first director of the state-run, earlier we used to call it as the Abadi Faria Hospital, now it is called Institute of Psychiatry and Human Behavior. She spent a lifetime treating these problems, and she treated children of a lesser god. They eagerly waited to meet that doctor. She spoke very, very little, but did a lot. That a healer, she was a healer whose initial reserve quickly gave way to a smile and some curative banter. Responsible for attitudinal change in staff and public. A household name synonymous with mental health. She was the angel of mental health, as I said earlier. She spent her whole entire lifetime alleviating human suffering by treating and reassuring. We have luckily with us Dr. Teresa, who also is in her footsteps. And today we'll be talking about problems, cognitive problems, and that lead you to dementia and precisely Alzheimer's. And we shall see what are the causes, how do you diagnose the problems, what do you do, whether there is cure. She will be in a best position to share with us. What is your take, Dr. Wiseman?
Now, thank you, Jovito, and welcome, and nice to be with Dr. Teresa. Now, Alzheimer's disease is known for a very long time. It's named after Dr. Aloysius Alzheimer. He was a German neuroanatomist, neuroscientist, and neuropathologist who described this in 1906. A German patient, a lady, was having an abnormal behavior of 51, and he did an autopsy. Now, the name Alzheimer's was given in 1910 by another German scientist for his patient, because he had a similar patient. So, it starts from 1906, 1910, and the poor man died at the age of 51, Dr. Alzheimer's, but his memory is perpetuated. Now, it was also found out that the case he said is Alzheimer's was is not Alzheimer's, was metachromatic leukodystrophy. But anyway, the disease is named after Dr. Alzheimer's. So, this is the first thing about the history. And the cases are just increasing and increasing. So, Teresa, the incidence, and Mr. Jovito, incidence is increasing, and they are expecting it to become 3 times more by 2050.
Yes.
But basically, Dr. Wiseman, this is, and Dr. Teresa, this is basically memory loss for thinking problems mostly. And it is, sometimes they call it as the mild cognitive impairment, MCI, or cognitive impairment. Dementia is the general term, and then the Alzheimer's disease is a sign, some kind of a problem in decline also in memory or thinking skills, and memory lost, and then you know better what is the progression.
Teresa, now you tell us.
So, it's basically a spectrum. So, Alzheimer's is only one type of dementia. So, dementia, when we refer to dementia, we are basically referring to someone who has loss of cognitive function. So, when we speak of cognitive functions, what occurs to everyone is only memory, the person forgetting. But cognition is much more than forgetting. So, cognition, the different parts of cognition is, one is ability to remember things, ability to plan and execute. So, to do anything, to function in our day to day, we have to plan, and we have to carry out our planning, and in that systematic order. Or even suppose a lady has to cook a dish, she knows that what are the ingredients are required to be taken out, the quantities that are required, the procedure of going through it. So, that is another cognitive function. So, a person might remember, but if he is not able to run through this is also already a loss of one of the cognitive functions, a very important cognitive function for human beings. Besides this, the ability to localize ourselves in space, to know where we are, to find our directions in known paths. It is not losing direction in unknown paths, means following a GPS, for example, and you lose your way, it's a different story. But if you already know a particular road or a particular city in and out, and then you start losing your way, inability to find where you parked your vehicle in a place that is absolutely known to you, is another cognitive function. And when this happens on a systematic basis, not on a one-off basis, a systematic basis, it is something to worry about. Besides this is other functions are there of cognition, which is the ability to carry out simple things, which only family members of who have lived with people with dementia will realize. For example, a person loses the ability to dress up, starts wearing clothes upside down, and without realizing that they are doing the same. So, that is something called as a dressing apraxia, which is again a cognitive function. So, when a person systematically starts losing these cognitive functions on a regular basis and this does not allow an individual to function at his optimal level or at his level of maximum functioning, and making that person dependent on others, is what we refer to as dementia in layman's terms. Now, this happens on a spectrum. There is something, first of all, there are different causes for this dementia. It is not Alzheimer's, is not, every dementia is not Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is definitely the most common type of dementia. It is increasing in large numbers because our life expectancy has definitely increased. Plus, probably our social structure is also changing dramatically, and we don't know whether it is also the lack of stimulation of aged people, the lack of social stimulation, that is people meeting, people talking to each other, whether that also has a role to play in this evolution of Alzheimer's dementia. Now, so Alzheimer's dementia may be the most common, but there are a lot of other ones which are very important in our country as still today. So, we have got hypertension and diabetes, uncontrolled lipid profiles, that is your cholesterol levels, all giving rise to something called as vascular dementia, which is definitely a preventable dementia that we can have and which needs attention. So, we need to find out risk factor assessment, and monitoring is very important. Secondly, we also can have infections causing dementia, which is again a treatable dementia. Third, we have got nutritional disorders because of, again, and we see many a times we see elderly people who live alone and they suddenly have a dramatic decline, and this many a times we see is that because of the poor nutrition that these people have, either because of lack of access to the correct foods, lack of motivation to go out, inability to go out and buy their stuff, and this over time contributes to a rapid decline in their cognitive abilities. Now, Alzheimer's is very rarely rapid. Alzheimer's is a disease which runs over years, and the evolution of Alzheimer's can even go over 15 to 17 years, even 20. It all depends on the level of care that these patients get. Now, in Alzheimer's we have got a spectrum. We start with something called as a mild cognitive impairment. So, a mild cognitive impairment is when the individual realizes that he is tending to forget, and he tends to forget the more common things, tends to forget names, and tends to forget things, any messages which are given to them, okay, which they cannot, they know that something, they have not got the whole message. Earlier they would be able to grasp much faster, and the individual will come to us telling us that, you know, I tend to forget. But at this point of time, that person is still functioning, and if anybody looks at a person or deals with that person, they will not realize that there is something going wrong. At that point, the person is independent in all his activities. Only at high level interactions, very high level, that is when there might be, someone might realize that there is some forgetfulness.
So, the best person to notice this would be their own family people, because you deal with people on everyday basis.
And a family member who will also interact at that intellectual level.
Yes.
Because many a time we see family observes the day to day. Nobody interacts with an individual at that high, that high level. That's why one of the risk factors also for what we see for Alzheimer's, they say is educational level.
Okay.
Now, that educational level basically also is directly proportional to what the person has achieved and where are the interests of that person. Say a person who was occupied a high level teaching profession. A teaching profession means you have to keep learning, you have to keep reading, you have to keep interacting. On the other hand, you may have someone who would have done a clerical job and may not have interest to build after that. You understand? So, this and you may have the clerical person who also has lot of interests of reading. Now, that person, I would not say that he has a poor educational level. He may be more educated than one person who may have a very high educational degree, but does not stimulate his mind by regular learning. So, only when a relative interacts with that person at that intellectual level, having conversations, seeing how they interpret things, how they are able to remember new things which they read, maybe they hear in the paper or on the TV, and are able to reason out through those things, able to remember those incidents or whatever occurrences are happening day to day, then is when the family can
Yes.
realize.
So you have to be very closely
close.
connected,
Yes.
and you have
Just
to interact.
interrupt you,
Yeah.
Teresa and
Yeah.
Dr. Teresa and Mr. Jovito. I'll just give you 3-4 examples in my path.
Yes.
One example is, there's a lady who is from North Goa. Her family, his daughter is married in Panjam, and she was coming here every last 20 years. Suddenly, over the last few years, she cannot find the way. She was just routinely coming. She's getting lost.
Yes.
So this is one of them.
This is one of them.
Second example I'll give you. A lady was traveling. I had gone for a conference to Benares, and via Delhi I was coming back to Goa. In the flight, sitting next to me was another lady from South Goa who knew my family, who knew me, and started asking me, what does your son do? What does your wife do? I answered her. The whole journey of about 1.5 hours kept on repeating the same question,
Yes.
20 to 30 times.
Did you answer? The
I
same
answered
question?
immediately.
You answered,
and
okay.
all 20-30 times I answered. Even as she left, poor lady.
But you could diagnose.
I
the
could,
problem.
and then I told her family. I sent a message through some of my, so they knew about it. Second, then the third is, I'll tell you, in Lisbon, I had gone for training conference. So one of my relatives, he's Portuguese national. My cousin married. So he, took me and my wife for to eat in the supermarket. Now the poor fellow went to one stall because I said I wanted fish. He said, "No, fish. You don't have fish."
Yeah,
He said,
exactly.
"No." So he went on asking everybody and repeated it about 10 times. So then I told, "Arey, Bill, I'll have anything, but we'll sit." No, just to. So
Yeah.
there are some examples
Yes.
which, and you must be seeing on day-to-day basis.
Much,
Yes.
many more.
Many
We do
more.
see,
than-
because
So
it
the
is our area.
incidence is very high.
Yeah, they say
1
that
in 10.
Dr.
Yeah.
Wiseman,
Yeah.
they say that worldwide,
Worldwide.
it affects about 24 million people.
Yeah.
And what you said,
Yeah.
1 in 10 people
1 in 10.
older than 65,
65,
have
yeah.
it. And also nearly 1 in 3 people older than 85
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
Alzheimer's.
It's all
disease.
age related.
For
So-
every decade, it will
It
double.
is increasing.
Incidence increase.
That means it is quite common now in Goa.
Yes. it
You
is
come
definitely
across many people?
many.
Many.
It's
More
very common.
than last year or before that.
And
Yeah.
it is increasing at alarming levels.
Alarming pace.
It
They
is an
say
alarming.
Alarming more because our social structure is also not supporting it.
supporting it. Yeah.
Okay.
You understand?
okay.
Because we are living in nuclear families.
Yeah.
And that, so a person with who is starting off, you can help a person with Alzheimer's, and you can slow the progression of the deficit in the first years by giving treatment. You cannot do anything much for them after they are very severely, moderate to severe dementia. What happens is, in the initial years, as long as the person is functioning and they are living by themselves, nobody realizes, nobody takes it seriously.
Correct.
So these patients tend to decline faster. They realize it when the person is not able to carry out his day-to-day functions.
It is somewhat late.
It's already late.
Yeah.
Then to intervene, there is no much improvement. So, and then at that stage, it is a very, very close interaction that an individual, that the family member needs with the patient, that will keep the patient in a better condition.
Yeah. Dr. Teresa, what you are sharing with us, problems with the memory,
Yes.
problems with the reasoning,
Yes.
problems with the language, problem with the coordination,
Yes.
problem with the mood, problem with the behavior.
Absolutely.
Now, we talked about dementia. Dementia is a general term, and under that comes your Alzheimer's.
Yes.
Now, they very often they say that dementia is like talking about vegetables in general, and you are talking of Alzheimer's, you talk about one fruit, and that is how it goes about. But most common is memory loss.
Yes, in Alzheimer's, the most common presentation is a memory loss which is related to recent memory. So, past memories are very good. So, a person will remember his childhood and his growing up phase very well till quite an advanced stage.
For me, sometimes I forget. So, could I be also?
Yeah. So, what we need to understand is forgetting. See, many a times we forget when we are pressurized. Under pressure, we tend to forget some things.
Yes.
But then when we sit back and we try to remember, it does come back to us. Like somebody's even name. I said earlier that forgetting names is a very common thing. Now, in this, usually that memory that is not formed. You don't form a new memory, so you don't recollect. Okay, so one problem that we need to understand is, as we age, our attention span reduces. So when you are in your 20s, you can do 2-3 things at the same time. You could be doing one thing and listening to music on the other side, planning a third thing, multitasking all at the same time, and everything functions smooth. When you reach your 40s, you start realizing that it doesn't work. It just means you can do one thing and you are planning something, something is in the back of your mind. But if you start dividing your attention, you see that both the tasks are not getting done at an optimum time. So you start realizing that, but you are functioning quite fine.
Yeah.
As we age, when we reach 60, we realize that we need to start doing one thing at a time. Otherwise, it starts only giving stress, anxiety. And anxiety is the worst enemy of any cognitive function, because if there is anxiety, you panic, you cannot build a memory. See, you can never learn under stress. Nobody can learn very well under stress. So that anxiety leads to people becoming worried about it. So we need to, one thing we need to understand is we need to start doing tasks mindfully. Mindfulness is a very important thing. Now, when you are developing mild cognitive impairment and dementia, the problem is that you don't build a memory. So, like what Dr. Wiseman Pinto was saying, is that that lady kept asking 20 times. So, he kept telling her the information, but it was not registering. It is not that she didn't want to register, but the memory was not passing through the circuit.
Correct.
So, it was not forming. So, initially these will happen on smaller things, later on it happens on a daily and almost continual basis, and they will keep asking. Many a times a person would have eaten and he will come and say, you didn't give me food.
Is it?
Yes. Okay, so I have not eaten. So, please give me food again. So, this way, and someone would have come and visited, they would have had a proper conversation, and then the person leaves and they do not even know who has come. They won't even realize that that person has sat with them for half an hour or even 1 hour.
So, in other words, you may have trouble remembering faces or names,
Yes.
facts, and where you are, even in familiar places like at home.
Yes.
Now, all this can be diagnosed by any person.
Yes, when it is very obvious,
Yes.
it is there. In the beginning stages, it is many a times missed. So, the initial diagnosis, even when a person complains, is important to seek help to see where the patient is fitting, what is the cause of that dementia. Because if it is a reversible cause, you deal with it, you prevent the decline. Any decline that happens, you can never regain your brain again. Brain once lost is lost. A person will never regain the cognitive function to how he was before the onset of the
So,
problem.
you are talking about early diagnosis and early
diagnosis.
treatment.
Yeah, early diagnosis for the cause of dementia.
Yeah.
Important. Secondly, correct and monitoring. Like when a person has hypertension, I always say is that hypertension has to be monitored and the BP has to be maintained at a normal level if we want to prevent complications. It is not just take that tablet, let the BP be at 170, 180 and continue as long as there are no direct problems happening. It is that constant high BP which will cause complications. So, we need to monitor and we need to keep things under control.
So, ultimately, the brain cells are damaged.
Yes, the brain cells die.
And the brain cells do not regenerate.
No.
Actually,
so that's the problem.
Yeah.
That is the problem.
Mr. Jovito,
Yeah.
why they die in Alzheimer's?
In Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
There are two pathologies that take place.
Yes.
It is a amyloid, beta amyloid.
Beta amyloid.
That's one sort of a protein which gets deposited extracellular, and inside the cell tau protein.
Tau.
Yes.
So this damages the cells, kills the cells, and the connections
between the cells. Yeah.
The communication.
So it's basically a protein problem.
Protein
two
and tau.
types
Exactly.
of protein that
Two
have
types
been
of protein,
identified.
which one intracellular, one extracellular.
Yeah.
Which have been, and these two proteins are being used even for diagnosis.
Yes.
Now,
Okay.
as I have written once, that there are blood tests which have been detected to see the ratio between the amyloid and
Tau
tau protein. And there's machines which have come.
Yes.
Lumi, which have started in the United States.
Even here, it's starting.
They
still
are
don't
going to come to India. They came in June.
Correct.
I wrote about it in
So,
June. FDA gave permission in June. So after that, as you said, they'll come. So now it will be, and such patients, you don't do for screening a patient who's around 50 plus, who's having cognitive decline, you will be recommending them to do.
Yeah, sometimes they also talk about irregular sleep patterns also.
Yes, yes.
And sometimes these people sleep during the daytime.
Yes.
Yeah, so one thing is, as we age, our sleep cycles change.
Yeah.
Okay, normal aging pattern. So you normally go through REM and non-REM sleep. So REM means rapid eye movement sleep, a phase in sleep where your mind is actually active, it's awake, and it is dreaming, but the body is paralyzed by certain mechanisms in the brain. And there is a non-REM sleep, which is your relaxed sleep, which is stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. And attenuation of stage 3 is very important for us to develop memories, consolidate memories, and for rest. Now, these phases tend to become shorter as we are aging. So that's why a person with age tends to, one, wake up sometimes in the middle of the night, but they should not remain awake for long periods. That is, if a person is awake for long periods, it is not normal. We need to see the reason. Secondly is that they don't sleep the 7 or 8 or 9 hours like they would sleep when they were young. So their sleep will be fresh when they will sleep by around 6 or 7 hours. And they tend to develop a little bit of drowsiness early evening, means at about late evening, not early evening, late evening. By around 7, they tend to become a little sleepy if they are relaxing, but then they pick up. So this is the normal, what we say, the sleeping pattern. Now in Alzheimer's, there is definitely a change in this sleeping pattern. The cycles become smaller. And also we have seen a similar sleep disturbance in other neurodegenerative disorders, like we see in other Parkinson plus syndromes and Parkinson's. So this is one thing to be understood. Second point is, many a times there is, because of the inability to keep themselves occupied. Okay, a person, as they are getting into dementia, reading for a person who is an avid reader, reading becomes less, because there's a lack of interest, because whatever they have read they cannot remember. So then gradually they start reading less, they start interacting less, and progressively we will realize that when a person is in proper moderate dementia, it is only interaction with another human being that is possible. They don't occupy themselves. So they are doing one thing, they will forget what they are doing, then they will move to something else. So that chain is lost, and that person loses interest in everything. And if they are not stimulated by human beings, their exit is sit and sleep.
Yes.
Sit and sleep or go and lie down. Now that daytime sleep, they get a good daytime sleep. So then night they don't sleep.
It alters.
Because you can have a determined amount of sleep in the day. You cannot just keep on sleeping. The second point that I want to, this is another thing about when we are getting older, we see a lot of people complaining, oh, I don't sleep. This is what I told you, the sleep cycles change. And another thing is less physical activity in the day, again, is equal to a more disturbed sleep at night. Your body needs a particular amount of physical activity. Now, so there is a tendency to prescribe a lot of sleeping tablets, especially benzodiazepine groups. Now, these sleeping tablets are not supposed to be good, and we have not found a direct causation between that and dementia, definitely, but it is not helpful as people age, because one is that the incidence of falls, balance issues is very common as we age, and in dementia balance issues is a big problem, and that leads to falls. So these drugs worsen the incidence of falls. Number two is, it is seen that people who are chronically on these drugs tend to have poorer cognitive functions as they age. So why this happens is because these drugs may give us entry into the stage 1 and stage 2, but it does not let us to go into stage 3. It maintains you at stage 2. So sleep studies which have been done on people who take these drugs, it maintains them at stage 2. So that restful sleep that is needed for consolidation and for rest is not happening over years, and that leads to the problems.
So basically it's a lifestyle disease, one of the, the sleep,
Possible.
good sleep, good diet, exercise,
Yes.
stress, no smoking, no drinking, diabetes,
Yes.
hypertension. Now there's the type 3 diabetes that is associated with Alzheimer's.
Yes.
Type 3 diabetes.
Yeah, that's what earlier they
We
said.
had- yes,
This is
yes.
type 3
because
diabetes.
it's the sugar, glucose, which is the
The incidence is much higher also
higher,
in dementia.
very high. Now, one more thing, Dr. Teresa, whatever it is, the brain, I've done autopsies. So the brain in Alzheimer's is atrophied,
Correct.
becomes small,
Yes.
especially the frontal, parietal, and
Temporal lobe,
occipital
yeah.
lobes. It starts in the hippocampus and it goes.
Goes
So
right.
that is one thing. Second thing, these patients, as they die, they become immobile, they get infections, respiratory
Yes.
infections, and they don't talk, and so these. One more thing I've noted in Goa, it must be everywhere. Most of the home, for the aged, they do not take Alzheimer's. But now I've read that some houses have started which are looking exclusively after these dementic patients, because they don't take, because of various issues, legal issues and social issues,
Yeah.
economic issues. So this is a real problem for the.
Dr. Teresa, can't you keep our brains young and healthy? Because they talk sometimes that the brain can grow new cells and adapt throughout our lives, a process called neurogenesis.
Yes, so neuroplasticity and neurogenesis. So there's a lot of our brain actually that we are not using
Yes.
in our day to day. Now preserving that brain, getting that brain to do things which of the neurons, because we are losing neurons from our second to third decade of life, we start losing neurons, everybody. So preserving those other neurons and getting them to keep functioning is very important, but that can be done only by stimulating. So stimulation, when I say, means physical activity, like Dr. Wiseman Pinto said. Physical activity, very, very important.
Correct.
We need to start. We realize that as we grow older, people just get more and more sedentary.
Correct.
It starts with our jobs, because our jobs are, I think we need to respect the olden system where we used to work from 9 to maybe 5, and we need some time for family, and we need time for our some physical activity, whatever recreation.
Yes.
It is not that it is not fancy to work from 8 to 8, because finally it will take a toll on your life, on your family life and your personal life.
But everybody wants
Yeah.
to make bigger, faster money, and they
See,
exhaust themselves in their process.
Dr. Teresa and Mr. Jovito, neuroplasticity, very good, also can be improved by learning new skills,
Yes.
new language, or a new instrument, or a new hobby. Keep
Absolutely.
yourself diversified.
Yeah, exactly. Like we always tell ladies, try and learn a new recipe. Go to
Correct.
you have internet, go and learn. You used to like to embroider, you used to like to stitch. Start doing it again. There's a big void in a person's life at retirement.
Yes.
A lot of people.
Correct.
And many a times, because of the inability to maintain a job and their activities which they used to enjoy, these activities take a setback.
Yeah.
So we need to revive them at that time and ask them to continue stimulating themselves by learning new ways of doing things. And of course, that new way has to be something that a person likes,
Correct.
so that it continues. We cannot tell. So each one has to develop it. We cannot say someone, now you have to go and you have to learn some martial art.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen.
It-
It has to happen.
One more thing,
Yeah.
I just wanted to, post-COVID, after our COVID pandemic, Mr.
yes.
Jovito, Teresa, the incidence has slightly increased. They could not take the treatment properly, they were not looked after. But I've read many reports that the incidence is increased because it's a neuroinflammation, and also because of the change in immunity. It is, some studies have shown that there is an autoimmune component in this Alzheimer's. I think you can shed
So
more
there
light
is
on this.
there is an inflammatory part to Alzheimer's.
Inflammatory
So
part.
Inflammatory. So one of the things also is an uncontrolled blood sugar.
Blood sugar.
So whenever a person has diabetes with
Yeah.
that, and the sugars are uncontrolled, we see that these patients decline much faster than
Correct.
people who are
Yeah,
well
yeah,
controlled
yeah,
diabetes.
Yeah.
Now that is one thing. Secondly is and also with hypertension.
Hypertension.
Okay, it's a different mechanism.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
is not the same.
Yeah.
But that is another thing which can slow down. Now, what happened in COVID was a mixture of this inflammatory process, inability of people correcting their risk factors, people isolated, and then whenever an elderly person got COVID, the signs were, they would immediately, they would manifest as drowsiness and incapacity to walk. So there is a CNS action of the virus, definitely. An elderly person, so a young person would start coughing, would have a respiratory infection, would come for this. An elderly person would just become lethargic and become bedbound. That was the symptom, and we knew, we literally, if a person came to casualty and with this symptom,
Correct.
first thing we did was a COVID test.
You know, I've been reading, it's more common in women, the
Dementia.
dementia and
Yes.
Alzheimer's, more common in women. Another thing I wanted to say to you, I've read a lot of reports. They say that if you give vaccines, like, you know, in old age, they give influenza shot, flu shot or influenza vaccine.
In Europe, almost everybody.
Everybody they take. It's not that common in, in India.
No.
Influenza vaccine or DPT vaccine or herpes vaccine, that it protects against dementia, delays dementia.
Yeah,
you also must have read such.
Yes,
Teresa.
it is what I feel is this is that, see, everybody is losing neurons. Your chances of dementia are increasing. Now, when a person, even with mild cognitive impairment or a person with early dementia, gets a respiratory infection, gets any infection, anything, any insult to your body, will be reflected in the brain.
In the brain.
Which it will cause a very rapid decline. We will see one pneumonia in a 20-year-old and you see a pneumonia in a 60-year-old.
Correct. It's
that
different.
person will take much longer to recover. The 20-year-old will recover, say, in a
Absolutely
week.
correct.
Here, this person will take 4 weeks. And he will never reach his usual level of functioning unless very special efforts are taken. And it all depends on where he was on the spectrum of the
Scale,
cognitive impairment. So that decline is prevented by vaccination.
So, Dr. Teresa, there are certain physical and mental exercises that can stimulate the growth of new brain cells?
It's not certain. It is what I said, physical activity. One is what they say is, besides doing cardio, that is walking and or swimming, that is a cardio exercise. Weight training is supposed, resistance training is supposed to be helpful. And I feel it is very good because of also it helps improve balance and posture, which is another problem which leads to frequent falls in the elderly. So resistance training is very, very important for the upper limbs, for the hands as well as the legs. It's not only for the legs. So walking will exercise your legs a lot, but hands, weight training important.
So that increases their neuroplasticity.
That I really won't be able to tell you whether it increases the this, but
what
I
it
feel
will do, it will help build muscle. So sugar will be better metabolized.
And
sugar, insulin,
and your other whatever morbidity which your brain is bearing of the body, that will reduce.
Correct.
So we don't know whether. Second is a healthy diet. Very important.
So diet is almost common for everything.
For everything.
But what happens is, see, when you are young, your level of physical activity is more. So you need more carbohydrate. And we develop that diet as we are going. We cannot maintain the same diet as we are getting older. And secondly, elderly people have another issue, the dentition. So they have a lot of problem in eating protein. Masticating. So eventually their core diet is carbohydrate, which is something which shouldn't happen.
Should not happen.
We have to see that protein intake is very important. Protein, we need 1 gram per kilogram body weight of protein per day. And that has to be divided in all the 3 meals of your day. You cannot have 1 meal protein because your body can only access a particular amount of what you are taking. It's not going to absorb everything. So we need to split that up. So diet is very, very important. And the activities, saying what we said, new activities, have to be of interest. If a person, you cannot have problem with the elderly, it's very difficult to get another family member or another help to stimulate that individual all the time. Self-stimulation has to be there, and self-stimulation can only come from the desire to do something which I like. So that is important. What activity depends fully on the individual and the family to help out.
So you have talked about the sign, the symptoms, the syndrome maybe. But are there any early warnings that could be detected? Of course, you have to be a little bit sharp. that before these things happen, I could see this happening with you or that happening with you. Is there any indication?
Yeah.
Some
So
years
one
before.
of the early signs. So
Yeah.
as I said, one is the forgetting small
Yes.
incidents. Secondly is also depression. Depression coming in the elderly person. Now one instance is where we have depression from a young age. People get episodes of depression. Depression is also an organic disease. It is not like earlier we used to think it is like subjective. It is not. It's an organic disease. So, but when an individual develops depression for the first time above the age of 60, it is supposed to be one of an sign indicative of a probable development of a neurodegenerative disorder. It could be a dementia setting in, or it could be a Parkinson's or a Parkinson plus syndrome setting in. So, those are the one of the premorbid conditions. Now, there are other types of dementia that can also present just like this, forgetfulness, and one of them is called dementia with Lewy body. Now, in those patients, the premonitory signs which before is people acting out their dreams. They start shouting in their dreams. They don't hallucinate, they are not hallucinating, they are dreaming actively. So, they shout. As I said, in the rapid eye movement sleep, we are dreaming, but our body is paralyzed. Here, they lose that ability to get paralyzed. So, they have very active dreams of animals chasing them, and they are protecting themselves. So, many a times they even will hit a bed partner, they will fall down from the bed during this. So, this is another thing which may be indicative of another neurodegenerative disorder like a Parkinson plus, like dementia with Lewy body or Parkinson's, which is developing. And sometimes is change in personalities, slight changes in behavior, like a person who would be very active socially starts becoming withdrawn. That is another sign which we many a times miss, which that could be a sign. A person who is otherwise very socially active becoming withdrawn, a person starts behaving inappropriately and without purpose, not like for a particular reason, and this is happening on a systematic basis. This could be indicative of a frontal lobe problem, and that could happen sometimes, rarely in Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's very rarely can start in the frontal lobe, and sometimes more commonly it is indicative of something called as frontotemporal dementia, which is a disease which is got a lot of morbidity, difficult to manage for family members, and it will start somewhere in their 50s and 60s, and it will just go on for years, for even 10, 15, 20 years, and the person becomes a different individual. Very difficult to manage these patients.
So, do you mean to say there are stages in Alzheimer's?
There are stages in Alzheimer's, of course. All dementias, there are stages. In Alzheimer's, we say there's 3 stages. There's a stage 1 where the person is still physically and mentally independent. He can perform, he can even go out, he can do some of the activities beyond his activities of daily living. In the stage 2, the patient is doing his activities of daily living, like he will eat his meals, he'll have his bath, he'll be able to take care of his body, and he will be able to probably move around his surroundings. Okay, but at unknown places he might get lost, unknown. Stage 3 is when the person, stage 2 to stage 3 is when the person starts having increased dependence on family members, because they are not able to, they start having more of spatial disorganization, even they get lost in their own house. They start losing their ability to speak, they start losing their ability to control their bladder and bowel.
Spatial understanding is lost.
Yes, spatial understanding gets lost even in stage 2, late stage 2, and the degree of it keeps on increasing. So, many a times we will have families telling us, members, that the patient at night will get up and pass urine in his room, won't go to the bathroom. It is just next door, but he will not go. During the day he will go. Now, here is because the person doesn't realize that this is a bathroom and that is a room and where what is. Sometimes they will go to the kitchen and they will void over there. So, these issues do happen. And another issue that happens in late stage 2 to stage 3 is hallucinations, delusions. Sometimes what happens is that they are so dependent on that one caregiver, which many a times is the spouse, and that person they will start suspecting sometimes of robbing their things, suspecting of infidelity, and this creates a lot of friction and is something which is difficult to handle, because as it is, that spouse is already so pressurized because of having to give attention all the time of the day, and over and above that there can be aggression in the middle of this. So one important thing of how to handle this issue, because is you can negate once, but if the person does not get convinced, it's sometimes better to keep quiet, because many a times those people tend to forget what they said the next,
Yes.
and then they might be fine. Sometimes it is not, it doesn't happen, then those patients need to be medicated, especially when there is risk to the caregiver. Okay, after we try this initial thing of not, sometimes the spouse gets so irritated that they just keep nagging and they keep on, that is very that does not help, that will just make things worse. So is learning to how to handle the patient, but then sometimes medication is required. Now the problem with medication is that it makes them drowsy, it makes them slow. So every person of dementia in their stage 3 will start becoming slower. They will have loss of their reflexes in terms of balance, their falls increase, and slowly they will become rigid and Parkinsonian, stiff. Now that is towards the end of stage 3. All that gets preponed when you give drugs to calm them down, because they are finally working on the brain.
Yes.
They may silence them, but then finally these other issues are there. So that's why we need to delay them as much as possible if we can handle with other means.
So basically, educating everybody would help in the long run, especially the family members and the others.
Yes.
That is necessary. That is necessary.
Yeah.
And
They should know the.
And basically, like you said, it's the amyloid protein.
Correct.
They stick together in your brain cells,
together,
and they form clumps called plaques.
Plaques.
And tau proteins,
protein.
they turn together in fiber-like strands
Tubules.
called tangles.
Yes.
So this is the main cause.
Pathology.
And the nerve cell dies.
And the
Then
cell dies.
Connections die.
And connection,
Yes.
communication.
Yes.
So a baby, the function, when you see a human baby growing till they are around 2, 3, 5 years, we see it's like it's like a mystery how a person who cannot walk starts walking, talking. It's the same thing in reverse order that is going. Why is that happening? That is happening because cells are multiplying till 2 years of age. After that, connections are forming and forming and forming till 18 years. A child's brain is like a sponge. It just absorbs everything that they get. That is because connections are just developing like enormously. Here connections are going down. So that's why we are losing connections.
Any possibility of robotic surgery in the future?
Surgery, no.
Actually, what happened? This is a general disease, Mr. Jovito. Robotic and all, the treatment is for localized. The whole brain, large part of the cortex is dead cells.
What
is your take?
So there are drugs. A lot of drugs are developing.
Yes.
So the drugs are developing. First is, like Dr. Wiseman said, first is identifying people at risk and starting them on drugs to prevent the deposition of amyloid. That is one. Number 2 is drugs to reduce that inflammatory process, the second part. So there is the key. If we are able to achieve that, so far some drugs have come into the market abroad, but they have not translated into what results were expected, and they are still very expensive. In India, we still don't have them. Okay, in India, we still manage Alzheimer's with, I told you, in this initial stages, we can give drugs, and these drugs, what they do is they just increase. In Alzheimer's, because of the loss of the neurons, there are decrease in certain chemicals. So those chemicals are what is released at those junctions. Now those chemicals go down, and that is what does not allow an individual to maintain that focused attention and form new memories. So you give a drug that will prevent the breakdown of the chemical which is already existing. So you try to elevate the drug in the brain, which will last a particular time. Once the nerve cells are depleted, then again the chemical level is going to go down.
Family history, about 10%. They say
there is a family
chance. You talk about hereditary
family history. And there's a ApoE apoprotein.
Yeah,
If it is there, the
risk is
abnormality,
4
more
times higher.
chances.
Yes.
And to study the family members for this gene.
They say that normally is
Yeah.
10 to
10%.
30% higher.
Chances.
Yeah.
And they usually present at a younger age.
Younger age.
Yes.
About a
Down
decade
syndrome
to two.
has that.
Down syndrome because
has got trisomy
see,
21.
there is a another gene called presenilin 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So there also those were associated with familial dementias.
Dementia.
So that chromosome is located on chromosome 21.
21.
And those Down syndrome patients have an extra chromosome.
Extra.
So
Trisomy.
Trisomy. So that's why it is seen that Down syndrome individuals, they develop Alzheimer's early, and usually they will have it about by the time they reach around the 5th decade.
50.
Now
to
you are here at GMC
Yes.
heading your department for so many years. How do you feel is the progress in Goa or regress, whatever you call it?
See, the number of dementia cases we are seeing is definitely increasing.
It is increasing.
It is increasing. Life expectancy is going up. What I see is that we need to put in certain things so that we are able to see at least whether it is controllable. Like one thing is awareness of risk factors and working on those risk factors early on. Okay, like your risk factors of disease, your hypertension, diabetes, and your cholesterol levels, your diet. You want to check your vitamin B12 because for people who are vegetarian, and lot of food fads are there now. People stop so many things in their diet thinking that we are going to get younger. But we need to have awareness that we need to do things. There has to be science in it. Second is the concept of stimulation. We need to continue working. We cannot retire. We cannot retire. If we retire, it is like asking for a decline very fast. It may not happen for 10 years because you have the reserve, but then you are asking for problems to start. So we have to understand that after we may stop working, but we have to continue and have interests beyond our work.
I remember when I was in the newspaper, we had a crossword. And they stopped publishing the crossword and this elderly people say, you have come at a wrong time, we cannot do this, we cannot do that, and is it also some...
So crosswords is supposed to be very good.
Yes. And some of them they say it's good to learn a second language even now.
Even now, second language, instrument.
Definitely, music. Music is a person who is a musician. Sometimes they may be totally in severe dementia, moderate to severe, but they will be able to play the piece that they have learnt.
So they'll forget at that moment.
Actually,
no, they will be able to play.
You made a nice point that we should never retire. It's a nice point.
So that
Dr. Teresa, I'll tell you, I've seen people at different. I've seen them about 50 years back when I joined medical college. Same type of people, and I've seen them now. There's a difference, those who are active and those who are sedentary, and those who have stopped working and those who continue working, continue going to walk, going to the church and the temple.
So I think we come to the end. We are very grateful.
Only one more thing.
Yes.
Another thing that I think is going to be helpful is having daycare centers. Not daycare means it's not care for the patient. It is centers at close to people, like in each village or a group of villages, where senior citizens can access, and where there are activities for them to do. Where maybe you can have a physical activity session. Exercising in along with others is more fun than exercising alone in groups.
Absolutely.
And this is one thing that we really need, because we are going down. Our families are becoming smaller. Both all the members in the family are working. The elderly individual is left alone for the whole day.
Netherlands, sorry to interrupt. In Netherlands, in some gardens and streets, there are benches where old people sit and volunteers come and talk to them by rotation.
Actually, there was one bench in Garcia de Water in Benjim.
Municipal garden.
The very first this thing, by 5, 6, 7, 8, all elderly people enjoying, talking, laughing.
Yes,
And
yes,
these
yes.
people who came with this new concept,
Yeah.
they didn't even think why that bench was put there. What
So-
you are saying?
Very important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very important. The benches meaning, for
Because
people,
it has to be something enjoyable.
Enjoyable.
Everybody's enjoyment is different.
Yes.
So we have to give options
option.
to people
Yeah,
if we want. Because tomorrow, once a person is declining, it falls on whom?
exactly.
It falls on that family member.
society,
It
yeah.
falls, maybe there will be no family members also
Yes,
nowadays.
Nowadays, all
There are no family
nuclear,
members.
All nuclear.
families.
And
And of course, palliative care, palliative
Yes.
centers should be,
we have to
It's a
increase
must.
because
As
it is
we-
very
as we
difficult.
discussed.
What you said is a must. So
Yeah.
thank you very much, our professor and head of neurology department at Goa Medical, Dr. Teresa Noronha Ferreira.
Yeah.
Ferreira only.
Ferreira, Dr. Teresa Ferreira.
Yeah.
Okay. You are from which part of Goa now? Panjim?
Panjim.
Panjim. Dr. Wiseman is from Asalna, and he takes great pride to say Asalnkar.
Your mother is from Lotoli.
We are from Lotali.
So
From
that
Lotali,
is-
Lotali.
yeah, that
Mother is
is
from
where
Lotali,
Dr.
father is
Adelia.
from-
Adelia,
Dr.
Adelia,
Adelia
yeah.
comes from Lotali.
Lotali.
That
Father
connection.
is from where? na?
Margam.
Mandur.
Did
Margaon. sir.
Margam.
Yeah.
Did Dr. Adelia come to you and you said, "Oh, I must follow her line"?
No. I had a very close interaction with my aunt as I grew up.
Yeah,
Because I had my grandmother, my mother's mother, she had dementia. And so she was in Lotoli initially, and then when I was about 7, she was brought to my aunt's house because it was becoming difficult to manage her in Lotoli with my mother. So then she was here, and she was in bed for many years. So that time I used to go there, and many times I stayed. I used to stay with her. I used to spend many days with her. And as I grew up and I did medicine, that time also I had a very close. And she was one aunt whom all of us, every nephew and niece has stayed with. Every nephew and niece has stayed and spent a significant here. And she was very. She was never judgmental.
Yes, that is
She
what
was always,
everybody says.
and she would just let us be whom we were.
Yes.
She was not nagging. She would never tell us anything. She just let us have our way.
Freedom.
Actually, here in Panjim, we used to say, "Tu mental angalta," but she changed. She
Yeah.
changed
Changed.
that whole this thing. And koni piece zalo no Panjim,
Right.
Dr. Adila kohta, but she changed that whole
She
concept. Thank you very much, Dr.
Thank you.
Teresa,
Yeah.
for sparing your valuable time.
No
And you are doing exceedingly well. And lots of people who have been talking about you, and you are their angel in continuation with Dr. Adelia. I'm going to you are
Obrigado.
one of us. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much,
and,
Dr.
Dev
Wiseman.
Barankar.
And may you prosper in your new post that you have acquired. Dev Barankar, Dr. Teresa,
Yeah, thank you.
Dr. Wiseman.
Dev Barankar.
They were.